Welcome back to Overtly Critical. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Corwin.
And this week we watched
A Clockwork Orange, directed by Stanley Kubrick, starring Malcolm McDowell, Patrick McGee, Adrian Corey, and Miriam Carlin.
In A Clockwork Orange, young delinquent Alex, who with his droogs enjoy reckless crimes like rape, breaking and entering, speeding, and violence, has his lifestyle catch up with him when he lands in jail, where he volunteers for an experimental government mental health treatment that has more effects than they were hoping for. So, A Clockwork Orange, Stanley Kubrick. This was my pick. I had seen it only once before. This is, besides 2001, the only Kubrick movie I had seen. And my first impressions, and when I rewatched it this time with all of you guys, is I think it's just such an interesting movie to break down for a number of reasons. I think just visually, story-wise, the kind of themes of the movie, it's really all there. And I think there's a lot to this movie to discuss, which is what I like so much about it.
I had never seen this movie, but I've been a fan of Kubrick's other work that I've seen, and it is a classic for a reason. It's such an intense story to me of this character who you don't like, but you can't help but empathize with through the experiences he goes through.
This movie obviously is a pretty heavy movie. It's got a lot in it. It faced censorship at some stages.
It's right up there with Natural Born Killers on like our list of the most not family-friendly movies we've done. So a little bit of a trigger warning if you don't. There's some unfun topics in here.
It's also based off a novel, which I guess we should mention. I'm actually not sure who the writer of the novel was, but the title's exactly the same. There's actually some debate over what the title actually means, A Clockwork Orange. It kind of takes place in the future, but it's not like
far future. This isn't like Blade Runner or Alien, other movies we've talked about. It's very near future sci-fi.
The car that Alex is driving, he said, is a 95 Durango. So 94, came out in 74, so I guess that would make sense.
Very heavily inspired by like this 60s, 70s aesthetic, the entire movie.
Oh, yeah.
Just like with the colors and the things they're wearing, the furniture. The mise en scène for this movie is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the most like detailed. There's so much detail put into the costume choices and the sets.
Yeah, when people think about this movie, I think they don't necessarily think about the story. They think about Alex's costume.
Yeah, which
right. And the crazy sets, like things like the milk bar, even like the homes of some of the people in the movie. It's and that's just who Kubrick is. There's so much artwork on the walls in every set. A lot of movies, they have one and not the other. This movie gives you a lot to look at, but it gives you a lot to think about. And as we can, I guess, talk about more in spoilers, the structure is a little strange, but the movie kind of shifts from this very sci-fi thing to a more, or not very sci-fi, but a kind of a sci-fi thing to more of like a very prison institutionalized kind of movie.
It's kind of almost 1984-like with its dystopia.
Sure.
Very, very long first act.
Yeah.
But it's very engaging all the way, and it's required to set up this character and to fully understand.
Yeah, and it is based off of the novel, which was divided into 3, I think, equal parts, and the movie's broken up into like 45 minutes of equal parts, pretty much.
Don't yell at us if we didn't do our research enough on the book.
We're right.
We apologize.
Alex is this troubled youth. He's got these droogs, he calls them, which is, his kind of friends, and they kind of go on these crime sprees all the time, and he's their leader, which I'll let you say your point, but I think an interesting thing for me was that this is a world that very much, at least Alex doesn't care about order, about like anything. He'll commit all these crimes, he'll do whatever he wants, but he does care about his droogs listening to him, and he wants order in his group.
It's established very early on that he is totally into this rape and this assault and robbery that they commit.
Yeah.
All while listening to the works of good old Ludwig van Beethoven. Which is a very important part of the movie, the music in this movie.
He never even says his last name, Beethoven. He's like, Ludwig van.
That's true. I don't know if he ever really
It's
said
weird.
Beethoven. He probably does.
I'm pretty sure he masturbated in that scene when he played his music.
I think he was, too.
They didn't show that.
It's very subtle, but he's got a little bit of
I think the movie in general uses really good ironic use of like classical music. There's a lot of like classical songs. They're very like, what people would call like these, beautiful songs that are played over, very violent things. Singing in the Rain is a great example, but there's a lot of other examples. And he kind of like established himself again as like a leader because he like cuts one of their pans.
Yeah, there's a scene where he beats the crap out of them after they come to his house and are like, we didn't see you today, because he was kind of just fucking off.
He met the girls, and
he did. He met
had
some
sex.
girls at a record shop. Has the 28-minute sped up sex scene.
Humps
with
like
them.
a rabbit.
Yep.
They're let into this house by being like, "Oh, my friend needs help." They break in, and then there's this guy in a wheelchair who's typing away, and then they go in and they
Probably the most iconic scene of the movie.
So they kind of just tip him over, and he has to watch them rape his wife.
He's actually not crippled at that point.
Is he?
No. He doesn't get crippled until after they beat him up and rape his wife. He describes he got like paralyzed. He's just like old, and they kind of just hold him down.
Anyway, so then they commit another crime for this like weird cat lady, where they kind of do the same thing and they break in, except only Alex goes in there, and
Cat lady puts up a little more of a fight. And,
yes, she does.
He ends up killing her with a big ceramic dick
statue,
but it's like a dick butt.
His droogs kind of set him up pretty much, like, whatever, we're gonna run, and I think they hit him with a bottle of milk, and it like gets him in the eye. The cops catch him.
In her house, she got all these paintings of women with their legs spread open, and she's got the penis statue. But you also get that in Alex's room and in the milk bar. And at first I thought they were trying to make like a connection just between Alex and the droogs about sex and how they see women, but it's clearly not just them in this society.
It's just a weird world.
So I was thinking, like, is this a world that's more sexually liberated? And does that feed into how this, like, you know, all these gangs are just kind of committing rampant rape of women?
There's even stuff, I know it's like it's graffiti, but there's even like the whole like the mural where they put a bunch of dicks and dick sucking on that thing.
With the shadow of the guy, and that's
a great shot. The prison stuff isn't super eventful, but there's a couple cool points. Basically, even the prison he's in, it's kind of a futuristic world where they're more on reform as a thing, and it's very religious. And he meets this religious leader, and one of the notes I kept, which is I think one of the cooler things about the movie, is they're teaching him the Bible. But he's misinterpreting the Bible because he sees himself as the evil people in the Bible. He sees himself whipping Jesus.
He has absolutely no desire to reform.
No,
he signs up for this treatment entirely as a way to get out of prison faster so he can get back to doing evil deeds.
Right.
And part of the point of this movie is that it's not really reform, it's control. And I think there is this theme in the movie of like the church and the state, because the priest is the one who warns Alex against his treatment and says, you know, a man has to be able to choose or he's not a man.
And there's a really great shot near the end of his treatment where he's sitting there after he's done a demonstration after his like therapy, where the leader of the therapy has one hand on his shoulder and the priest has the other hand on his shoulder. And I don't want to jump too ahead, but to me, that to me felt like it's representing how he is a subject and there's all these controlling forces that are pushed upon Alex.
Yes.
But I don't want to get too ahead. So anyway, he's in prison, and through a bunch of news of this new treatment, he volunteers himself for this treatment.
Some kind of drugs they're injected into his system, and also forcing him to watch these horrific images of violence and rape, ultra-violence as it's called in the movie. They show him like Triumph of the Will, all while playing this classical music he loves.
Right. For anybody that knows anything about psychology, I'm not very qualified. They're basically doing Pavlov association therapy, where you can get the dog to drool just by ringing a bell. So they're associating these things that he usually likes, which is, you know, violence and these things, with painful experiences. I also wasn't sure if this was supposed to be a commentary on like movie subliminal messaging at all, because to me
which is a myth that never really happened, but every psychology teacher likes to say it did.
Which is very ironic, because I think a lot of people might accuse this movie of doing that to people. It's actually a very iconic part of the movie that doesn't last super long, and then he's kind of out of it, and then we get to that point where he does that demonstration where
he literally symbolically and literally licks the boot of the government. I love that scene. It's great. Yeah.
They condition him to be sick by violence and sex and all these things that he used to be okay with. He gets this like, you know, choking cough. The third part of the movie is kind of, I think, the coolest but most mysterious to me, where I essentially called it Karma the movie.
Where he gets his ass kicked by all the people who he fucked over.
So they do this new kind of modern form of reform that's not punishing Alex, but trying to change him. And then he goes back to the real world where he just gets punished by everybody.
Mm-hmm. It's a great bit of irony in the story. He doesn't really regret the things he's done. He's just physically unable to do them.
Yeah.
And also society doesn't forgive him. It doesn't work because he goes to his family and they've like basically kind of adopted a new son in the form of a tenant.
He's been replaced
with them
pretty much.
And he's lost all his stuff because the government takes all of his things for I think basically reparations for the people he fucked over.
Yeah.
The homeless people who they beat up in like the first real scene of the movie, they beat him up, and then he's saved by the cops. Yeah. Who are the other droogs from his gang, who then basically try to kill him and fail by, in a really horrific scene, waterboarding him.
The reformers in the movie, they don't care really about free will. They care about programming people. I think the scariest part of the movie comes in the very end because what they do is kind of is another display of their power and how powerless Alex and other individuals are. They bring him to a hospital where they unprogram him. As they think, at least. There was public backlash, so we fixed what we did to you. It's really messed up.
The end of the movie, after he tries to kill himself because the husband of the woman he raped in the beginning,
more karma,
figures out it's him. He goes to his house after they drown him. The other droogs try and kill him. And then
with beefy boy Austin Powers,
he just recognizes Alex as the person they rehabilitated, but he doesn't remind him because they were wearing masks. And then when he's up in a bath singing in the rain, we get this gray shot. The husband going through like a panic attack as he realizes who it is.
I think there's a shot in The Shining like that too.
He brings in like these other kind of political figures because at this point we learn that this guy's like a bit of a political activist who's against the current administration.
Yeah.
And
the kind of people that the guy who did the treatment to him is like, oh, we're getting backlash for this treatment. He's one of those people.
Yeah. And what they try and use Alex for is they basically try to get Alex to kill himself to say that this treatment doesn't work and it's inhumane.
Right.
And at first it works. And we get this montage of all of these like magazines like calling it inhumane and newspaper articles. And that's what prompts the Minister of the Interior to visit Alex in the hospital to deprogram him. It's Beethoven again. Yeah. And then we get a final shot of Alex picturing like this kind of like orgy in the snow. And he says, I was cured all right. And that's where it ends.
This is a Stanley Kubrick movie. We've already discussed costumes and mise-en-scene and the sets. That's all important. I think the biggest things I notice about the look of the movie is, I think better than anybody, Stanley Kubrick uses wide-angle lenses really well. And also, everybody knows he's famous for center framing everything. He likes visual symmetry. And it's really trippy sometimes. Like the shot you just mentioned of like the husband like looking down. It's a very weird, globe kind of looking trippy shot. Like the scene of the cat lady, she's like doing her yoga. That's a center frame shot. When he moves the camera, he likes to do a lot of like lateral movements because I think he almost kind of, I mean, there is depth in his images, but I think he views things as more of like a 2D painting, just the look of them.
Sort of that whole idea of every frame is a painting in a movie.
Isn't he the guy that said that? The way some of the shots feel wacky, like even some of the framing traditionally would be weird. Like there's one scene with the cat lady in her room where her headroom is off, but it's because he's using the geometry of like the ceiling to frame the shot. It's just very interesting.
I think something he does in his movies, and it's very evident in this movie, is he doesn't just put the emphasis on the actors. He puts the emphasis on the entire space they're in.
Yeah.
Because he uses that space to tell a story too. Best example to me is the opening shot of the milk bar. The concept of the milk bar is so weird. They're drinking like this drugged up milk that is served from these statues of naked women, like literally out of their breast. And, like the chairs and the tables are these naked women statues. And it's just like...
It's so casual, too.
But it doesn't only like give us this feeling of like how the droogs see women as like objects that they can, control and abuse. But also... they're drinking milk. And there's other parts in this movie where you really get the idea that these are still, adolescents. They're teenagers. They're not full adults. Yeah. It's a little disturbing, honestly.
It's not just naked women. There's a lot of penises in the movie, dude. A lot of... dick
the
art.
costumes reinforce this too. The nose mask, the cod pieces they're wearing.
Yeah.
It's masterful.
Welcome to the sounds of A Clockwork Orange with Dan. Immediately from the title music, you know that this film is going to be dangerous. Theme is creepy, throws yourself off, and for, the opening when it just shows you colors, you don't really expect that sort of thing without music. So it's a good thing they put that in there. Portraying singing in the rain, the song itself is a way for people who sing it to feel sort of uplifted. My theory as to why the men are singing it is because, well, they're madmen. They're mentally insane or whatever you want to call it, and use this song to both A, torture their victims, and B, in a sense, to maybe relieve themselves of any guilt. So when the men are in the milk bar, theme changes very fast to a very, very sinister tone, showing sort of what kind of people they are. And in that same scene, there is a constant, going on in the background, going constantly up and down, phasing out of time and back into time with the rest of the scene, makes it seem more like a mystical sense. But in our case, it's like a mystical evil. Playing the William Tell overture over the 5 times fast sex scene, to me and to us, that was very funny. The scene with the cat lady and all the cats around that house, the penis statue and the rocks, the tone inside the house is calm and quiet, especially when she's on the phone. The tone changes instantly to a dark theme about 5 seconds before the back door is opened and Alex breaks into the house. Okay, so the box room in the prison. The box room in the prison, where I assume that's where all the valuables are stored once an inmate is sentenced and put in, actually gives me sort of a vibe like Full Metal Jacket when the warden is screaming in the prisoner's face. It's the echo in the room that just makes you more sure that you're in like a cement area, somewhere where sound can reflect off, and probably in a place more sinister. My assumption is that was recorded with an Omni mic, and it was most likely 12 feet away from whoever was talking, either behind the camera or on the other side of the room where the camera couldn't see. The 2 police officers, when they're hitting him with the batons, there's a certain point I kind of picked up, and that is, while Alex and their voices are regular, the baton hits have been reverbed. Flashbacks normally are spooky and have sort of a reverb on most, if not all, elements in them to show that they're either far away or that it's like a past event, something like that. I have a feeling that each one of those baton hits, while hitting him, was triggering some sort of past traumatic event in his mind. It's just a really cool concept I thought of. All right, this has been The Sounds of A Clockwork Orange with Dan. I'll see you next time.
So I guess my lesson that I learned from this, we kind of just touched on this, but I just said how the combination of camera blocking, architecture, how they can all make a distinct, memorable style for your world. And I think that this movie just nuts. It's so fun to look at every shot in the movie. There's just so much attention to detail, and how he shoots it and the lenses he uses, everything, it all just comes together. It makes such a memorable, like, this is a Kubrick movie. You can't look at this and say, oh, that anybody else shot that. It's so uniquely him.
This movie, the music is not only so perfect to what this movie is about, like this grand operatic story, and also this like juxtaposition of that with these horrible scenes, but it's literally a plot point of taking this music and corrupting it in Alex's brain to make him hate it. It's incredible. I've never seen a movie that uses music like this. I mean, there's great scores like for Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Interstellar, personal favorite of mine, that have great scores that tell a story in their own right, but I've never seen a movie that really uses its score like this movie does.
Hey guys, this episode of Funny Notes is brought to you by sex. Title of this is How the F*** Can an Orange Be a Clock?
Fuck you.
How? The home of whores. Milky time. Americans won't understand driving.
Oh, left foot. Oh my.
Stand pissing.
Who is what? Who is sitting?
Stand pissing.
Fuck you.
You don't say. Can the main character stop being Ryan? Then I think it's Nudies. S-E-R. Why did I put an E? British hoes no dental health care. Some women like straight, some like flaccid.
Oh my gosh.
So much jealous. Boris Johnson. Pervert.
Where?
In the prison.
Does look like Boris Johnson. Holy shit.
Ass enhancer drugs.
Oh.
This has been Sex Notes. Goodbye. Hey guys, Gregory's not here, but I've realized the note that I was saying. Can the main character stop being Ryan? Yeah, Ryan scratches his butt in the morning, and I have always see it every goddamn morning.
It is time to pick our movie for next week. Are we gonna pick one of mine for the 4th time in a row? Who knows? So I'm technically picking this week, so you can scramble the order of the boxes however you want. Do it.
Sure.
Do it. And then I'll
Doing it on camera. Hope that mic's picking up all that scraping on the table. That's 1, that's 4.
I'll pick one.
Okie dokie artichoke.
I'm starting to feel bad. If I pick one of my movies, I'm going to feel really bad. Please pick something I don't want to watch that's one of your movies. No. I'll go with this one.
Drum roll, please.
We are watching A Simple Plan.
Directed by Sam Raimi, starring Bill Paxton,
Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton, and Bridget Fonda. This is a really good one, and I'm excited to talk about this.
We're going to be back with A Simple Plan next week. So until then, we will see you.
See you next time.
Yeah, wave. Wave, everybody. Bye.